Was there any other conference organizers that wanted to give a lightning talk at the very end or wanted to mention their conference coming up? If so, please send a slide for your conference to Jared, that's Jared at pygotham.org. Otherwise, we're going to get jumping into our lightning talks for the night. How'd day one go, everybody? There we go. That's a lot of energy after the cookie break that we had, I got to be honest. That one tanked a lot of people. This room is half as full as it was this morning. All right, so we have got not only lightning talks, but a little bit of trivia to hand out some books that we have. Are people excited for books? People excited for learning? Fantastic. Yeah, I got some hands up in the air. A little bit of a hallelujah, something like that going on. Fantastic. All right, so while our first speaker is getting up into position, Paul, do you want to jump up into place? Let's get started on some trivia. We've got 8 books to hand out, and these I will just throw at you if you get it close or I just feel like throwing something at you. Trivia for the evening starts off with, in what year did Guido start working on Python? Whoa, fantastic. Who shouted that out first? There he is. Peter, dang it. Peter, he doesn't need a book. Peter does not need a book. Okay, somebody else want to shout out 89 real quick? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Everybody, come on up, get this one book. I think everybody gets 2 pages at that point, right? Fantastic. All right, so let me do another one. Let's see. I've also got notes from who I've talked to today as well. So just Randall Deggs is a fine gentleman. I've got some emails. What is EBNF in the context of Python? And raise your hand. Okay, all the way in the back. Fantastic. Thank you for telling me how to pronounce that. All right, great. What's your name? Trey. You'll get a book at some point in your life. All right, great. How you doing, Paul?
Seems okay.
Okay, here's just some fun facts since we're so close. I want to give you a fun fact about this hotel. This hotel has the longest continuous use phone number. That means in the state of New York, when phone numbers first started to come around, they got a phone number and they've held on to it longer than anybody else has held on to a phone number. That's right. They did not switch carriers over the past 100 years.
I don't know what's happening.
And that phone number is something like PE and then 6500000. So if you ever wanted to prank call them, you know a very easy way to do it, or an easy handle to remember. Okay, great. So we have more time to stall.
Apparently me.
In 1924, Harry Houdini debunked Joaquin Maria Aga something or others.
Yeah, it was weird.
Profession that she had X-ray vision here in this hotel.
Now,
Okay. In this room, right where I'm standing.
go first, 'cause I-
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay? It was actually, so that was the first time Harry Houdini did something like that. What's that? Okay, second person. Hands up. It was also the first time somebody developed the word party pooper. So, Harry Houdini, a little bit of information here. What else we got? Oh, in 1925, William Faulkner, while writing one of his, many Nobel Prize winning awards, stayed at this hotel. He gave it 3.5 stars. Okay. All right, I've only got so many dad jokes and I'm burning them fast, so we need to slow things down a little bit. How'd your day go? Yeah? Love the lack of eye contact there. That says you really mean something to me. Fantastic. How'd you think about that lunch? Great sandwiches?
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay. That's a lie. I can tell. I can see it in your eyes. No. Great. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, in 1920s, or somewhere in the 1920s, this guy named John Jack Nunes spent $40K, and that's big money for back in the day, right? Spent $40K on a big, huge party. People, like super fancy actors, and at that point there was no talking in film, so these silent film actors came in and they were taking baths in champagne. It was the most decadent, wild party you could have, and it was right here. Now, in this room, right where I'm standing. Now, we don't have the funds to do that same kind of party, so we'll just be bathing in the leftover half and half from lunch. Okay, are we ready for our first one?
I think so.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Can you introduce yourself to the crowd real quick?
Hi, I'm Feng Fei Shen.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Great. Give it up for our first lightning talk speaker. How beautiful.
Thank you. I'll be talking about how beautiful soup and hashing saved $100,000. Quick background, I'm a software engineer at Newton, which is an education technology company, and we're currently in a process of complying with the American Disabilities Act, otherwise known as the ADA, so that disabled students can use our product. One aspect of the ADA is image accessibility. So people with impaired vision can use screen readers to hear an image's alt text and long description if the HTML image tag contains an alt attribute and or a long description attribute. So for example, this image here, its alt text might be something like cat drooling over candy apples, whereas the long description would be something more detailed. Newton has thousands upon thousands of educational images, and it will be really, really expensive to write alt text and long descriptions for all of them. So to lessen this monetary burden, we turn to scraping from OpenStax. For those of you who don't know, OpenStax is an open source set of textbooks that you can find online, and Newton has taken a lot of images from OpenStax. Naturally, at this point, we would get a web scraper, and Python's web scraper, at least one of them, is Beautiful Soup. So in this simplified code snippet, you can see that we are parsing an HTML page, which is, you can assume is one from OpenStax, and use that to find all of the image tags on that page. From there, it's relatively straightforward to take the alt text and any other attributes we want. So here, we're taking this image tag's alt attribute and also its source attribute. Next, we need to match up all of these alt texts to our image database somehow, and we use that. You do that by using image hashes. Previously, in a previous slide, we scraped the image source, so we can take that image path, open up the image, and then read its bytes, and then take the bytes and put it into some hashing algorithm. Fun fact, that hash over there is actually that Pikachu. So by populating our image database with alt text and long descriptions scraped from OpenStax, we save a lot of money. And if you're wondering where I got the $100,000 figure from, I saw it on a spreadsheet. But to give sort of a simplified overview of it, at some point we estimated that about 5,000 images we'd be able to scrape from OpenText, and it would cost maybe about $20 to write both the alt text and long description for it because stuff is expensive, and that approximately equals $100,000. If you'd like a more detailed description of how that was calculated, come find me afterwards. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my story.
There we go. Fantastic, and under time, what an exemplary use of her lightning talk space. All right, so while we're getting our next speaker up, who is our next speaker? Third speaker, fantastic.
Right.
What's your name, bud?
Evan.
Evan, while Evan's getting ready, let's do a little bit more trivia to hand away some more books. What is the implementation of Python called that's built on top of, instead of C, Java? Oh, yeah, y'all lost because somebody didn't raise some hands, you know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, great. Guess what, sir? You get a book. All right, maybe I should stand back here. That'd be a little bit more fair. All right, so that's one book away. What's my favorite color? Wrong, I don't have one. I'm not 4 years old. All right, there we go. All right, okay, what else we got? Let's see. Whoever raises their hand can then try to attempt to complete this sentence. Okay, or this statement. Computers are useless. They only give you blank. Nope. I'll give you a ball. Yeah, and who said that? Pablo Picasso, exactly right. I'm sorry, sir, but are you Spanish? Okay, well, you're very close there for an American. It seems like you had a kind of a handicap there for, you knew this stuff too well. All right, there we go. And you get a book. Make sure to come up for that book. All right, great. Evan, you doing all right? You need a little bit more time? Or are you ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, fantastic, everybody. Give it up for Evan.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Evan Morikawa. It's me on Twitter. And I work for a small startup based in San Francisco with a new New York office called Nihilus. We use a lot of Python to build APIs that are really easy to access your own inbox. So if you just want to curl request over and get to send and receive your email, you can do that. We also build a desktop email client that's all open source and built with JavaScript via Electron. And over the course of building all of these products, one of the things that we found most helpful while working on this is snapshot testing. So real quick, how many have tried or used snapshot testing before? Awesome, that's like pretty few. That was only like a couple % here, which is awesome. You get to see the magic of it right now. So I'm just gonna jump straight into a snapshot test. I'm actually just going to use code that we have. So it's not the simplest example, but it gets the point across. This is a simple PyTest. And basically all I'm doing is we have all of these very complicated sync statuses. If these folders are dead, it's partial. If there are others going, it's a lot of stuff. It's the kind of thing you'd want to assert all sorts of states for. You might find a sort of test that you're working where you're like, assert these 5 combinations, type that, assert these 5 combinations, output this. And it's particularly important for an API where we need to make sure that we never change any of the data that's coming out to keep it backwards compatible. So instead, what I can do here is I can write a test that just starts permuting through states. And here I'm just permuting through states here, setting up a handful of things and testing this one method here I've called calculate sync state. And all that's going to do, it's going to create this dictionary full of results and save it to a snapshot. Let me show you what that looks like right now. The very first time you run that test, what it's going to do is going to see the snapshot and it's going to write a file with that snapshot in it. And specifically, that file looks like this. It just outputted the results of that function under every possible permutation I could have in a file. If you ever found yourself writing like your own mini DSL, your own mini set of test cases to permute through, this is kind of the same thing. This is parameterized testing, but in reverse. It means I didn't have to manually write every single one of these darn statements. I just permuted through all the results and got the answers right out of there for me. What this is particularly good with is then watching for changes. So if I go back to that code I just had open and say I wanted to add a new health state. Now because this is permuting through all possible health states twice, like that's a lot of new test cases to look for. But in this case, I just run the snapshot test. But because that code has changed, it will tell me exactly what is different here. Well, it would help if I save that file first. And then it'll run it against the code that I have and tell me that, oh, I actually ran it with the old code here, and tell me that the output snapshot is different. And specifically, if you go into that test snapshot over here, and say you wanted to realize that this actually, instead of running, should be a dead state in this particular piece. Now when I run those snapshots again with my new data, it will tell me that something has changed. And it's very clear immediately based on the data that we have saved out the first time that that's actually what it should be updated to. In the case of this, if the new code change is in fact exactly what you want that to do, you can just run it again with the snapshot update flag and it'll update your snapshot and you keep going along with your day. The other thing is that snapshot is committed to your source code repo. That snapshot is your final test case. In the case of our API, we can even write docs off of this. We can assert off of this. We can commit it. It's a much more robust way to watch for changes as they keep going. Finally, I just want to end with actually what is powering this. We use this particular snapshot test library. The library itself is very small. It's a fairly simple process. And then it was finally based off a lot of things that we see from the JavaScript land too, which is why a lot of our JavaScript experience has helped us do this, just as a popular framework that also does snapshot testing. So yeah, I would highly recommend looking into it. It's extremely helpful. It makes writing tests a lot faster. Yeah, and thank you very much.
Evan. Paul's ready? Fantastic, Paul. Head on up there, and then Dan, and then a bunch of other people. Fantastic. All right, great. Next trivia question. The class syntax, so, when you're defining a class, that class keyword comes from what language? What language did Python borrow that from? All right, hands, people, hands. Yeah, oh. No. You had the right answer, and then as soon as you raised your hand, you gave me a different one, a wrong one. C++, you're absolutely right. All right, you get to walk away with a book. Fantastic. Let's do this. Speaking of features and Python, Python borrows features from each of these languages except for one. What language does it not borrow features from? C++, that's a giveaway, right? Just had a question on that one. All right, if we're paying attention, we know that one. C Lisp, Java, Fortran.
Fortran.
What's that? Nope. Oh, fantastic, Eric. What's that? This is true. Everything's built on Java. Yeah. All right. Granted, I pulled this off of a website built by a 5-year-old, so fair enough. There might be a little give and take in that. You answered it correctly, so maybe throw your ball to somebody else and come grab a book at some point in time, okay? All right. Paul, you all ready?
Ready to go.
Fantastic. Give it up for Paul, everybody.
Hi, my name is Paul Gansel. I'm a software developer at Bloomberg. Probably more relevant for this talk, though. I'm the maintainer of Python dateutil. So I'm going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, time zones. It's the least confusing thing in all of programming, so it's probably going to be very boring for you. The important concept here is the difference between an offset and a time zone. So an offset is like UTC minus 6. That is always 6 hours behind UTC, and it's just a representation. It's like a unit for your time. US Central is a time zone, right? That's a set of rules for which offset you would apply in a given location, given a certain local time. So what do we use in Python? Well, what we use is date times, which have an optional sort of attribute, which is the tzinfo object. And tzinfo objects are essentially time zones, right? So what they provide is they're objects that expose these functions, and they'll give you a UTC offset and a DST offset and a printable time zone name as a function of the naive portion of the date time. Here's how it looks. If you use dateutil, you get New York's time zone. If I attach it to this date in 2016, I get it's a daylight savings time date, so UTC minus 4. If I look 1 day later, we're after the daylight saving time transition, we have UTC minus 5. And if you look here, dt1.tzinfo is dt2.tzinfo, right? They're the same object. So the same object generates the same different offsets for different input dates. How does this work with PyTZ? PyTZ uses a slightly different interface. So if I do the same thing with a PyTZ time zone, What do I get? I get this thing that says LMT. The offset is minus 4.93 hours. LMT stands for local mean time. That is basically what the time zone was in 1900. So why did this happen? This happened because PyTZ expects you to localize your date times. You're not supposed to use the standard constructor. Instead, what happens is you localize your date time, and PyTZ will figure out which offset it's supposed to attach, and then it will attach one of these offsets, right? A specific offset. That's a static offset, and my slide got cut off, but this is actually supposed to say false, because the original time zone TZ-info object is not the TZ-info object that it attaches, because it's attaching this specifically cached thing. So why did they do this? Because of ambiguous times. So an ambiguous time is when the local, the naive portion of the date time here, 1:30, is the same for two different actual, UTC times, right? So here we have two dates that differ only by which side of the DST transition we're on. And PyTZ, for the longest time, was the only one who was doing this correctly, because they were able to specify which static offset to attach and attach the correct one, whereas everyone else who's implementing the Pythonic interface, as it were, was taking this naive datetime as an input, and obviously it has to generate the same offset as an output for the same inputs. So that all changed in Python 3.6, where there's now an official Pythonic interface. And the way that's changed is that now datetime has this attribute, fold. And if you specify fold equals 0, and you're in an ambiguous time, it will give you the first occurrence of that ambiguous time. And if you specify fold equals 1, it gives you the second occurrence. It's pretty simple. It's completely ignored if you're not in an ambiguous time. And in dateutil, I've also added this tz.enfold function. So if you're stuck on Python 2.7, legacy Python as we like to call it, you can just use tz.enfold, and you can backport this fold functionality and use tz-info objects. All right. Did I go over time?
Talking. Just 5 minutes up.
All right.
All right, give it up for Paul, everybody.
Did I go over time? It says 4 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, you had 30 seconds. Hold on. Let me go back. Go,
I just don't want you guys to think I'm too wordy.
Great, fantastic. Who we got up next? Oh, little delay there. Who we got up next? There we go. Ben?
Tim.
Tim.
Tim Allen, just like the schmuck on TV.
Tim Allen, just like the schmuck on TV. All right. Little New York trivia for you here. How many rats are there as of 2014? Estimation. Dan?
109.
8 per person. 80 per person. You're telling me that that's 80 times the 8 million people that were here in 2014. So 640. No, that's wrong. All right, let's try again. 100 per person. Getting bolder. Let's go. No, wrong. Actually, go down a little bit. 99 per person. She got it, everybody. No, go. 2 million. Somebody just looked it up on Google. Absolutely right. Which means part of our parting gift for all of our speakers, you get to go home with a rat family. So we've prepackaged them. Great, so that's fun. You get to walk away with not a programming book, but a book on cleanliness. So, okay, so let's see, do another, let's do another little trivia one here, or just a fun fact. This hotel actually does have a 13th floor. You know the superstition of 13 floors are haunted? Fantastic. All right, yeah. In fact, there are a number of ghosts on the 13th floor, or at least there were as of the 1990s. And rent got too high, and they had to move out to Queens. All right. But do go check out the 13th floor. That's kind of a rare occasion. All right. Don't spend too much time there. Tim Allen, are you ready to build a house?
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Give it up for Tim, everybody.
Howdy, I'm Tim, and I'm I'm an IT director for Wharton Research Data Services at the Wharton School down at Penn, down the block. And I'm going to go ahead and kick off this little process here while I get my slides going. And we'll get back to that in a moment. It's going to start building out quite a few RESTful endpoints for us that you see going by there. So my talk is called 32,000 RESTful Endpoints with Python and Django. And a quick thank you to all the organizers, of course. So first off, where do I work? Wharton Research Data Services. It's a single source for leading global research databases. We have over 450 institutions who subscribe to our product, including some of the subpar business schools you may have heard of, like Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Chicago Booth. 50% of our growth has been international over the past 5 years. We have over 50,000 active users who access the data on our platform via web, SSH, and remote connects. We support SSH via the cloud service we have, SAS, R, Python, the web, and more. And we have over 350 terabytes of raw data and over 2 petabytes of total raw storage that we maintain. And we're continuing our expansion beyond financial data into things like healthcare data as well. Over the years, we've made a lot of dubious database decisions. Spoiler alert, Postgres has made our life a lot better, and Postgres 10 came out yesterday. Woohoo! Yeah. So all the research data was stored in SAS data format, which is some kind of sorcery and necromancy even worse than Microsoft, in a format called SAS 7B DAT. We had MySQL for website data. We had SQL Server for website data as well. We also had research data, except for the New York Stock Exchange Trades and Quotes database, all in Oracle. And the one big thing we do is permissions. So we have 450 subscribers who all have access to different financial products and over 200 different data vendors as well as our own products. You can do the math on how many possible permutations there are for permissions there. Nobody could handle it. In the early days, we were on a Sun E20K monolith, basically, and did everything through ACLs on the file system. But over the years, that would not serve us well. So Postgres to the rescue. We had apprehension about bringing yet another database to rule them all into the mix, and the head of our division was convinced that this would mean we're now storing data in 6 different databases, but that has not proven to be the case. We've gotten all the research data successfully loaded into Postgres, which for the New York Stock Exchange Trades and Quotes database, it's very narrow, but very, very tall. It grows by 1.2 terabytes a month. Postgres is now backing Django for the website, so we've managed to get rid of MySQL, Oracle, and SAS completely, and SQL Server is on the way out as well. We're now using Django and Wagtail over Cold Fusion and WordPress, and we have integration with LDAP for permissions and ACLs, which is wonderful. We'd eventually like to make Postgres our canonical source for all these access control lists we need. So the foundation was complete, which gave us the ability now to actually, by introspecting Postgres, to build a RESTful API around all of these data that we collect from disparate endpoints. Some of our data vendors provide it in flat text, some give it to us in Excel, some drip it to us through SQL Server. There are many different ways of ingress. So in 1992, Words was created to dump data from SAS to Lotus 123. In 2017, we've created a RESTful API to anywhere. We use Django REST framework, which is absolutely amazing. I think I'm preaching to the choir here. By introspecting Postgres, we automatically built out the models, serializers, filters, and permissions. We do this by doing things like looking at what indexes there are on a table and then taking the first column for every index. If it's the first column in an index, it automatically becomes a filter in Django REST framework. The models are one-to-one. We map out the database types through a serializer to a RESTful endpoint. We also have handled permissions built into all this. So we check into our ACL permissions list and create REST point end permissions for them. The code was all built by introspecting Postgres SQL, which was that process I kicked off. And we now have web browsable endpoints permitted for each user. Fortunately, I have access to all 32,000, so you'll get to see what that looks like. And as I mentioned, filters were created for the first in each index. So without further ado, since I'm a masochist, let's hop over to live demo mode. And you'll see here we're up to about model 3600 or so out of the 32,000. But since that's just running locally on my box, we can go ahead and look at production. And I hope you thoroughly enjoy my API token here. It'll be valid for about the next 3 minutes or so. And you can see here we give pretty basic instructions on how to access the API. We actually fill in the token in the basic examples on how you can hit the endpoints. But more excitingly, here's what 32,000 endpoints look like for all of our data vendors. And you may see some you recognize there. Capital IQ is going by, CompuStat, CRISP, the Center for Research and Security Prices, and NYSE Tech. So I picked one that we're probably somewhat familiar with, which is end-of-day stock pricing. DSF is the daily stock file. This is from 1962 to present. I happen to know that Apple's QSIP is 037833310, which you'll see, since it's an index column, appears here in the filters. And as you can see, all the data is there. One lovely thing we have added is finance people love spreadsheets. So this is now available open source through PyPy. You can add XLSX as an endpoint. And voila, you can save your Excel, and that's it. I'm out. If you want the XLS renderer, it's available. Search for DRF renderer XLS. Thank you.
Give it for Tim Allen, everybody. Went from movies to working at Wharton. Movies and TV. All right. Okay, so we've got 2 more books to hand out. Let's see. My notes and the dreams that I write down after waking up. My thoughts and all my IPO ideas.
Oh, that's
my
not USB-C.
small business ideas. Oh, fun fact. The first Star Trek convention was held not here. No, it actually was held here. In this room, right where I'm standing. Thank you, Kenneth. Herbert Hoover, in 1935, spoke to the Ohio Society Club here. He kindly told them to go back to Ohio.
Okay.
Let's see. Fidel Castro stayed here. He also gave it 3.5 stars. Okay, I think that's all the fun stuff. All the other stuff has since decayed in interest to me, and I don't want to share that. So let's go back to some more trivia here. What is the, are you ready?
Take it.
Okay, yeah. What is the first parameter to any method in Python? Oh, you came out first. Fantastic. You didn't raise your hand, but you had you should have seen her. Let me do just a real quick recap. Self. Self. You already own both of those books that are options up there? Okay, all right, yeah. There is Learn Python the Hard Way, Learn More Python the Hard Way, and then Learn Less Python the Easy Way. Which one do you want? Yeah. All right. Everybody, Todd.
Is this on? Yeah, I hear myself.
Perfect. All right. Give it up for Todd, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So yes, I am Todd Green, the editorial director with A-Press, the book publisher, and delighted to be here. And for those who don't know me, I've been here today meeting a few of you, learning more about Python, thinking about things that we could write books about. And the first time I was asked to give this kind of a talk about why someone should become an author, I thought, well, I could give lots and lots and lots of reasons because I want to publish lots and lots and lots of books. I'm also kind of biased toward it. So I thought instead, ask some of our actual authors what they thought, why they wanted to write a book, and in some cases, why they wanted to write another book. And here's what they said. First author we have is one of our top-selling authors, Adam Freeman, who does a lot in the .NET world. And he gave us a couple answers. The first one was because they are challenging, which he finds that when he goes to write a book, he has to go and, they say you can't teach something unless you know it inside and out. So he goes and learns and really gets into something, and it makes him more knowledgeable about the topic that he wanted to write about. He also said it makes him think. He is the sort of person, as many of you may be, who their mind just is always going and always wants to have a problem to wrestle with. So he tells me that he's in the car or on the subway and he's thinking about something that's going to go in his next chapter. He's thinking about code that he's trying to solve that'll go in his next book. And he said he writes books because they help people. He's put his email address in his books, as some authors do, and people reach out to him from all over the world, and they ask him for help, or they just say, hey, thanks. I was struggling with something, and you helped me. And it really helped him feel like this was something he's giving back to people, and really makes him fulfilled. And he keeps writing more books for us, which is delightful. Many authors tell me that it helps their career opportunities. One of the first authors I worked with was a consultant, and he wrote a book. And when he went for his next consulting gig, he walked in and said, here's the book I wrote. And so, of course, they said, oh, you must know all about this because you wrote the book. It really opened a lot of doors for him. It has been the same for many, many, many authors. If you're looking for a way to jumpstart your career, walking in with the book you wrote is a great door opener. They also do change lives and give back in academia. People have the concept of the academic children that you taught, and then they go into the field and they become researchers or professors. Some of our authors feel the same way, that they wrote a book, they used it when they trained, and then people came up and said, wow, now I really understand this, and I'm really glad to be able to use it and learn this book with you. Books also bring people together. So this is a bit of a story, and this is a story about a book I did actually in a previous job, as you'll see when the cover suddenly changes. Books bring people together. This book was an edited work, which means there was one editor-in-chief who gathered people together around him, actually 3 editors who gathered people around them who knew various things about a topic. And they wrote the book together, which, yes, has a dog flying on the cover. And they had a mascot because they got together at a conference, and all of them came together and they realized we can all come to this conference and we can celebrate that we wrote this book together. And they had a party, and they were all very much happy that the book came out and that they collaborated on it together. That's just a few reasons why people have written a book, and if that has inspired any of you and you're wondering, how do I get started, I am here. So please come talk to me if you have questions about publishing, if you want to know more, if you want to know anything at all about it. It starts with an idea, and then we figure out how to put a proposal together and start writing the book. There's my info, and I'll be here today and tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Thank you, Todd. Fantastic. So we've got just a few more Lightning Talk speakers, then the announcements about conferences, and then we are well on our way to the evening social. How many of y'all sticking around for the evening social? Fantastic. Great place to network. You got your cards? One person shook their head. So, all right. That means that you take out a little piece of paper, write it down. If you need a friend with a piece of paper, not me. Go to the Bloomberg table, steal one of their notebooks, and start writing down and hand out those email addresses. Okay, we've got one book. It's a very thick book. What is the book called?
I do not have this.
It's called The Python 3 Standard Library by Example. Example must be a very knowledgeable person. Yeah, there's no, yeah. All right, so look at that. That'll burn well. Woo! Take that out to the wild, survive for days. Okay, so who's going to get that one? I've got to come up with something fun. Okay.
Maybe.
What are you trying to trip me?
Success? All right.
Oh, because I don't see you. Right. I'm sorry. I thought she was trying to sabotage the whole evening by karate chopping me in the shin, causing New York finest to come in here and take me out on a stretcher, right? Eric Schless?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll give me bought me some time to find a new question. But I will stand back here for the next one. Everybody, give it up for Eric Schless.
No. Okay. And starting now. Can people hear me? Yes? Thumbs up? Okay, cool. Hi, so this was going to be a 45-minute talk, which I'm going to do in 5 minutes, so we'll see how fast my voice can catch up with the things that I'm saying in my head. So this is a talk about saving lives and saving data and using technology to do all of that. This is my background. I worked at the DA's office here in New York, worked for the White House, worked for 18F, now I work for a contractor for local government. Cool. So when I was 12, I saw slavery. It was really sad. Everyone cried. I certainly did. Actually, for a number of years. Anyway, so there's going to be a number of lessons in this talk. I'm going to try to spin through them super fast. Number one, you can't do things alone. I tried to. It failed. That was really shitty. Then I found a bunch of people that wanted to do the same thing, and then I was able to save some lives, and that was really great. So the first thing I built was really crappy. It got me published in the Huffington Post, which was super awesome, but other than that, it's kind of shitty. I found a pattern in prostitution in New York City. The whole point of this was to look at sex trafficking work, and a percentage of prostitution is sex trafficking. So I was like, oh cool, I found a pattern, that's really interesting, and it happens to be on Thanksgiving, which is really weird. Anyway, this is the classifier that I used to write it. Yay, scikit-learn. If you can't see that, let me see if I can make it a little bigger. That's still really blurry. Oh crap, well whatever. Look at the slides, CSV, conf talk, I don't know, I guess I'll tweet this out or something after. Anyway, the point is that you can build a text classifier. Nope, I cannot make that better. All right, let's see if I highlight it. Nope, it's just not gonna happen. Okay, you cannot show live code demos on a thing. Can I make it bigger? Yes, I can. All right, excellent. Woohoo, we figured it out. So, yeah, basically you can train a classifier. Scikit-learn is super fucking awesome. Sorry to curse. But yeah, you can do a lot with it. You can lematize things. And then you can build pipelines, which is super great, and then this will just do magic. Apparently it'll just work with any classifier. I think this is doing support vector machines, but it can do a bunch of stuff. Anyway, so I used that to hand classified a bunch of ads, which made me really sad, and then I was able to come up with these numbers and these graphs. So now you know how I did it, magic. All right. So it turns out that this thing was actually really shitty and didn't help anyone, but everyone was like, oh, you're cute, you try to do a thing, that's really adorable. Then I met a bunch of other people, took it on the road, and they were like, all right, so, you know, at least you care, at least you're trying, at least you want to do this work, so we're going to empower you to do it by actually letting you have jobs, which is why I got to work at the DA's office, and do things, which was kind of crazy. I was like, wait, you're trusting me? So after a year of working with these exceptional people who I am honestly like honored to know, I built this thing, which is slightly less crappy. And so we're gonna look at one of the things. So this is a geographic view of something similar. So it turns out that sometimes human traffickers, or at least people doing prostitution things, will put their address. Now you have to ask the question, why would you put your address in an advertisement? Isn't it enough that like I can email you directly and you have a phone number up there? So I have a hypothesis, which I'm hopefully gonna get a test because I just got accepted provisionally into a PhD program, that if you put your address in a prostitution ad, then it's actually sex trafficking because no one would endanger their lives on purpose. But I have not got a chance to that yet. So this is like a slightly shinier site. Basically, a bunch of people who actually know stuff help me out. The lesson here is actually pretty simple. You can build a slightly less crappy thing by asking people questions and using, you know, that whole thing where you talk to people instead of just building something in a closet like I tried to do for 10 years. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is the thing that actually helps people. So this powers a bunch of stuff in small nonprofits around the city and sometimes around the country because I work with lots of folks. So this is the actual talk that I'm giving right now. I'm just going to show you that. If you upload this, you can, so I'm uploading my slides. It took a PDF and it makes it text searchable. This is the dumbest thing that I've ever made in my career. It's super ugly. It took me I don't know, maybe a couple hours, but like a lot of these old nonprofits are just on these like mainframe systems and they don't have good file search, and they might use really weird document types like picture PDFs for some reason that they scanned from things that were originally Excel documents, and then they became picture PDFs for some reason. And so being able to get that information is super cool. To do that, I'm using admittedly some sophisticated stuff, but I didn't write any of it, like a recurrent neural network that's powered by OcraPi, and then PDF to text, which is also super badass, but I didn't write it. Like I'm just like basically consuming the world, and because I knew what the right thing to do was. So eventually you can build something useful if you keep trying to help people, is the point of that. And then the final thing is, eventually if you keep doing this, you know, you can make a difference. And if you want to, here are some resources so you can do the same thing. These are some things that some friends from the White House put together, a list of lists. And then this is an actual one, but this is my favorite. I have 11 seconds, so hopefully I can scroll down fast enough to get to this. Some people will actually say, shut up and take my money. They'll give you $15,000 to start your own thing. So you have no excuse to not try. Take a couple months off, just figure it out. But you can make a difference too. All right, I'm done.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, whoa. Always startled by that. You think I'd learn. Okay, great. So the last trivia question as we're getting set up for our next section is, there we go, there we go. Look how well I stall. I'm really good at it. Yeah. What would be, in your opinion, if you feel, based on how you feel, let's say you wake up in the morning, right? What's that? To wake up in the morning? Yeah. Here we go. Here's it. This is perfect. What is this Pygotham? This is the blank Pygotham in a series of Pygothams. Yes. This is the 6th. Fantastic. How did you find that out?
It seems like it's recognizing it every once in a while.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah. Yeah, this is our 6th one. Fantastic. So we've been doing this for 6 years. It's been growing and growing and growing every single year. We hope to have it continue growing. The only way that can be done, though, is with your help. Okay, so joining in on the community, coming to those meetup events, being part of the speaker committee. If you wanted to help out, be a volunteer organizer for just this event, you can do that. So anytime you feel like jumping in or helping out, don't feel like that's a daunting task to take on. You're going to have a lot of support, and we can really, really use you. Okay. So with that little bit of a soapbox and advertisement for getting you guys involved, let's go back to some more fun facts, shall we? Did you know that the chef salad may have been invented here?
This is good.
Look it up on Wikipedia. It may have been invented here. That's right. Okay. What'd you say? Actually in that room. Right where I'm standing. Yeah, exactly, right? Okay, I had one more.
Figure that out.
And guys, it took me like 3 hours to put all this together. So, and we burned it away in half a second. Oh, the Muppets! How many of y'all watch the Muppets? Yeah! I'm not 4 years old, so I don't do it anymore. I've already established that. But you decided not to give a lightning talk?
No,
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we're going up. Did you have a computer?
Nope.
Fantastic. I love your slides, bro. I love that. Is that like an aquamarine you got going there? Windows 10, exactly. No, there's not enough white text. Okay, let me finish this off with the Muppets. You know those two Muppets that sit up in like the little cubby or their box at the play, and then they just heckle the whole time? Does anybody know their names? Yes, Statler and Waldorf. And do you happen to know who Statler was named after? New York Hotel. Not the New York Hotel. This room, this hotel, it used to be called Statler and got its name flip-flopped back and forth. Now it's back to Pennsylvania, its original name. But this hotel. So I guess the moral of the story is the Muppets are always behind us. All right. Your name, sir?
Abir.
Abir. Give it up for Abir, everybody.
Hi, my name is Abir, and I'm a researcher, and I'm super young, and I probably don't have anything worth saying, so go to sleep if you feel like. I wanted to call my talk The Power of the Matrix, which you can not see here. And I wanted to say, oh, this is us taking back the red pill, but whatever. Everybody knows, you guys know what a matrix is. It's like an array of arrays. Everybody who's worked with a database has stored information in them. But I'm from a research background. I studied physics, and I use Python mainly for writing simulations and like studying the dynamics of like weird, complicated systems with like lots of people or lots of bacteria or lots of stock prices. So I just wanted to talk about how you can think like using the math of matrices actually makes for a lot of progress in these weird problems that we try to tackle in science. And hopefully this doesn't go over your head. So I think of something called a two-state system. The best example that I can think of is maybe like this really sad, lonely old man who keeps getting married and keeps getting divorced. And he always has a choice when he's married to either stay married or to get divorced. And he always has a choice when he's recently divorced to get married again or stay divorced. And if he has a probability for doing each of these actions, and this is like a bit of a long shot, right? But in large groups of people, you kind of find that statistics end up giving you a good idea of what people are going to do. So you can kind of visualize his actions in something called a transition matrix, where if he starts out divorced and he wants to stay divorced, you give him a probability here. And if he starts out divorced and wants to get married, then 1 minus of that probability is naturally the probability that he shifts, because it's just two states. And the same way, if he starts out married and he wants to get divorced, because like different columns are representing different things and they're indexed the same way, then you give him the opposite probability. And if he wants to stay married, then you give him 1 minus of that. And this ends up being a symmetric matrix. But what's really interesting is not what he's going to do next, right? I mean, like this guy's not thinking straight most of the time. But what if you wanted to ask how many times does the average person who has this like one-time probability matrix, how many times is he going to get married if you ask him to make the choice 100 times? Now that's not what I study, but I'm gonna tell you why some things that I study are kind of like this, but not as pathetic. So what ends up happening is that if you look at one time step for a person to go from one state, which is married or not married, to another state, which is either married or not married, there's only one way that he can do that. He either stays the same or he changes. But if you look at 2 time steps and you want to see what's the chance that he was married and you asked him to make the decision once and you asked him to make it again and he was still married, then he could have either stayed married and then stayed married. Oh, I should go the other way around. He could have stayed married and then stayed married for both decisions, or he could have like gotten divorced from his first marriage and then gotten married again. So when you ask him the second time, he's still married. And that's 2 ways that he got there. And if you go to like if you ask him the same question like 100 times, then you find that it's 2 to the power 99 ways that he could have gotten there. He could have like stayed married all 99 times, or he could have like kept switching or whatever the hell was going on in his head. And if you wanted to find out, like if you wanted to really find these numbers, you might think, oh man, that's a lot of for loops. But what ends up happening with a matrix is like this 2 by 2 matrix, you just square it and you find now in the married block is the probability that he stays married from married after 2 steps. If you like raise the matrix to the power of 100, and you can work out the math, though I doubt anybody's going to, you find that like that married block is the probability that he stays married if you ask him the same question 100 times. Now, why should you care about somebody's like love life, right? Yeah, I know. Why should you? Because if like there are other systems that kind of follow the same kind of math. If I was looking at like a population of people and seeing looking at how an infectious disease spreads, let's assume that it's something horrible like AIDS, and let's assume that if either of your parents have it, you're definitely going to get it. You end up finding that the exact same mathematical model decides the probability of what number of people are going to have the disease after a number of generations of reproduction, which is crazy, right? I mean, we're not talking about a pathetic old guy anymore. We're solving actual problems. And what's cool is that if you think in matrices, you can do cool stuff like this. You can use the math in cool ways like this. And hopefully I did not put you guys to sleep. Thank you.
Abir, thank you. Man, I'm not going to give you life lessons here, but you got to find a different analogy for that. A man could get divorced or not get divorced or end up in an endless cycle of unhappiness. Let me take 5 minutes of your life with that story. Woo!
Okay.
I'm reading 100 Years of Solitude right now, but gosh, it didn't hit me as bad as that did. Somebody going through a quarter-life crisis right now? We can talk afterwards, you know. All right, so we have one more lightning talk for you, and then a short series of people talking about their upcoming conferences, which is a great way to get involved in the community. And so, how many minutes do you think you need?
3 or 4.
3 or 4, fantastic. And I've got 4 balls, so that's 1 ball per minute. I am 4 when it comes to arithmetic.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tell me, this is where I get to go out and heckle. This is almost my last opportunity to do so. After this, it becomes actual abuse or harassment. Right now, it's just entertainment. So, good sir, how was your day? All right, not fun enough. Moving on. All right. Where'd you travel from? You traveled from here? Wait. Where did you travel from? You like woke up and just kind of into this room and Midtown. You're a lucky man. I wish I lived around not Midtown, but you know. Yeah. Actually, sorry. You're tough life. All right, let's work the back of the crowd here. I haven't spent a whole lot of time. What was the most interesting thing you learned today? And make sure it's about me. I'm not 4 years old. Fantastic. Great, you get them all. Great. Let's see. Of all the languages that you could potentially learn to employ yourself gainfully, what language did you choose? Python. 100%. The only reason he has a job, ladies and gentlemen, Python saving lives right here. Python saving lives. You get a ball, because I really think you need it to squish on for stress, man. All right. How you doing? You good? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Fantastic. I've got 2 more balls. They're going to somebody after this. What's that? No. They're going to somebody after this after this talk and before the other. So, but right now, let's give it up for Kevin, everybody.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Najimy. I'm a software architect from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I usually give talks about Python and write a lot of code and try to teach a new skill. But this is a test balloon talk. This is a talk I've been thinking about giving. And what I'd really like from folks here is, do you think this is a good idea? Do you have any interest in this? Let me know afterwards. So the problem that really gets me is, have you ever had a situation where you've gotten frustrated trying to convince management to support your ideas, been bothered by teammates not liking the ideas that you have to try this great new thing, or annoyed that the loudest voice in the room always wins? I care a lot about people having a positive experience doing the thing that they love, which I think is a lot of what we're all doing here in this room, is focusing on Python and being creators. And I know I get a lot of joy out of that, and I really don't like it seeing people get frustrated when these sorts of things happen. And so I've spent a lot of time figuring out why people say no, and things that we do that as developers and technologists that make that happen. And I'd like to talk about those at some point. And I'd really like to talk about how we get people to yes by doing things like giving real practical examples. I don't want this to be like a fluffy, you really should get everyone bought in before you give, blah, blah, blah. No, it's like when you're in a room with people, always seek to understand other people's opinions before giving your own. That's a really good tactic to figure out how far you may need to change people's opinions. Or leading with questions instead of stating what you think, asking others what they think about the thing you're trying to convince them about. And really important, and I would challenge everyone in the room to try this when you get back to your jobs or your work, is use inclusive language. There's a lot that could be said about this, but try something simple like when you're writing a message or email or whatever, try using the words we and us instead of I and you. I think you'd be surprised the way people react to simple things like that. And basically, I want to remind people that, we're all human beings, and empathy goes a long way. We all come to our work with different places in our life and different challenges, but we're all coming to achieve something. And if you want to try to take something you've learned here today or you'll learn tomorrow back to work, it's really helpful to understand what other people are trying to achieve and weave that into them and get them on your side. Because we're all, pursuing happiness. We want to be happy. We want to be happy with our work. Others want to be happy with theirs. If you can figure out what drives them, what makes them happy, you're going to have a lot easier time getting them to do the things or try the things that you want to try. And just, remember that each day is an opportunity to be positive in the face of challenges. There's a lot going on in life. Work can really stink from time to time. We've all been there. But if you try to be positive, work is never something that should really take it down, because again, this is something that we love and something we do, and try to remind ourselves of that. And my last thought I want to leave with you is that people will remember how they felt when working with you much more than what they actually worked with you on to accomplish. And that's something that I try to remind myself of a lot, even when things aren't going well. Because if people are having a good time trying to get better at their craft, then I think that's a good thing one way or the other. So that's all I had for Lightning Talk. This is my name. I'm a solution architect at Robert W. Baird in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I organize a local Python meetup group there. You can find me on Twitter, and again, feedback and conversations are welcomed. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Short and sweet, fantastic. All right, let's get up the conference speaker so we can fire through these. Let's do a little bit of trivia for these balls for what's happening after this. Where is the after party? Here. Great, right where I'm standing, right through there. Who said that? I think somebody over there. Fantastic. A lot of fierceness in that catch, Matthew. Almost had him. Okay. And what time do we need to be back in this room for David Beasley's talk, which has a lot of mystery surrounding it. There's a lot of excitement. Everybody, you guys need to bite into this one, all right? What time do we need to be back here tomorrow morning for that talk? 9:20 is not the right answer. 9:15. Can somebody check the schedule? I actually don't know. I'm asking. This is a trivia for my own edification. What's that? What's the schedule say? Fantastic. There you go. For holding on to a paper schedule, you get a ball. All right. Stone Age over here. Come on, pull out your cell phone. All right.
We need the Barcamp Philly, PyTexas, and then DjangoCon, and then PyCon in that order.
Okay. Can those, is there a line of them? Let's make this snappy. We got 30 seconds or less for each one, and trust me, this is where I get to have some fun. I see 2 people up there for 5 conferences. There's no way that's right.
It actually is, kind of.
All right, well, I stand corrected.
Actually, there's half a person up here right now, but we'll get into that in a minute, because I'm doing the first 2.
Okay, fantastic. Are you ready?
Yes.
Tim, go.
So I'm Tim, I'm up here again. Barcamp Philly is awesome. It's our 10th year. None of us expected it would go this long, but it just frickin' works with the way Philadelphia works. And it's just down the block. Next Saturday, October 14th, I have a couple free passes. If anybody wants to make the easy Amtrak trip down, come see me. It's hosted at the Wharton School, which hosted DjangoCon last year, PyPhilly, and is 3 blocks from ENIAC, so come check out ENIAC where it all began. Last year, I saw Django and Wagtail running not just for the zombie apocalypse, manifesting Fred Rogers in the Donald Trump world, hacking civic data, and an 8-year-old talking about how she uses iMovie. So come join us next weekend, and it will help fill up your faith in humanity tank.
All right, that's conference 1. Conference 2, go.
Conference 2, for the next 25 seconds, pretend that I'm Dustin Ingram, my friend who had a flight to catch, but was from Philadelphia and is now in Austin and help organizing the 10th annual PyTexas, also in its 10th year. It's in Austin this year. There are 2 days, multiple tracks, and registration is open now. Thank you.
Wow. Go, Kenneth, go.
Okay, I'm here for DjangoCon. We don't have a lot of things. We don't have a date. We don't have a location. It's going to be in either Spokane, Washington, Greenville, South Carolina, or San Diego. It'll be sometime in the summer. It's not going to be only about Django. It's about everything involving the web and all the people and all the ecosystem stuff. Look, he's there. We also reliably make Reddit really mad because we pick a lot of talks that aren't about hard technical topics. Last year, or 2017, we had over 50% of our speakers were women. It's a 6-day conference. Woo! 1 day of tutorials, 3 days of talks, a few days of sprints. Come and help us pick a place.
Great, that was conference 3. Go. Who's next?
I'm not for DjangoCon. No, there's something else.
You're PyCon.
Go, Pat.
This is totally ad hoc. You look at the screen, zoom in, hide out in New York City. Right here in this city is November 27th to 30th. You should come by if you like data science and Python.
Woo! First Python conference I ever went to was a PyData conference. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Hello. So as chair for PyCon 2018 in Cleveland, Ohio, I'd love to welcome you to join us in the cacophony of events that comprise the event from May 9th to 17th, 2018. Those events are tutorials, free sponsor workshops, language summit, education summit, talks, keynotes, posters, lightning talks, our expo hall, job fair, open spaces, and sprints. Outside of that, there are events all week happening like dinners, PyLadies auction, young coders, the 5K fun run. What's the word?
Keep going.
Okay.
Ignore me.
Anyway, the CFP is open, so you should totally check out us.pycon.org and follow us at @PyCon on Twitter.
Woo! We did it, everybody. Are we all good? That's it, everybody. Day 1 in the bag. If you want food and, well, I don't know about food, but drinks and stuff, party's over that way. We'll see you there.